Senior commanders fall. 90 generals swept out. What's really driving Zhang Youxia's counterattack against Xi Jinping? Today, we take you inside the latest political purge, shaking the Chinese military. Welcome back to Final War with Katherine Hu. At the end of June 2025, the Chinese military was rocked by yet another sweeping purge, one that sent political shockwaves throughout the regime. The first sign of change. The powerful director of the General Office of the Central Military Commission was replaced. The new appointee, Zhou Hongshu, former head of the Central Security Bureau. Zhou is no ordinary figure. He was the top man in Xi Jinping's personal security team. But if you examine Zhou's career closely, you'll see something surprising. He has no real connection to Xi. His entire rise has been fueled by one man, Zhang Youxia. Both Zhou and Zhang come from the 40th Division of the 14th Group Army. This division specializes in jungle warfare and led the assault on Laoshan during China's war with Vietnam. In the 1984 Laoshan campaign, Zhang Youxia made his name by defeating a vastly superior Vietnamese force, with artillery playing a decisive role. Zhou Hongshu, it turns out, is an artillery expert. In August 2015, Zhang Youxia recommended Zhou for Chief of Staff of the Northern Theater Ground Forces, earning him a promotion to Major General. In July 2021, Zhang backed him again, this time to become director of the Central Security Bureau. The role Zhou just assumed, director of the CMC General Office, is one of the most powerful yet least visible posts in the PLA. It's like the Secretary General of the military from the Deng Xiaoping era. The title may seem modest, but the position controls day-to-day CMC operations, top-level personnel appointments, military restructuring, and even the chairman's personal security and classified schedules. Whoever controls this office, in practice, controls the military. When Xi became CCP General Secretary, he immediately parachuted in his trusted aide, Zhong Xiaojun, who had zero military background, to run the office, a sign of just how much he valued the post. But in April 2024, Zhong was suddenly reassigned to the National Defense University as political commissar. Fang Yongxiang, formerly a deputy minister for Veterans Affairs, replaced Zhong Xiaojun as director of the CMC General Office, effectively becoming Xi Jinping's top gatekeeper in the military. With Zhou Hongshu now heading the CMC General Office, it's a clear sign that Xi Jinping has completely lost control of the military. At the same time, Zhang Youxia was launching another sweeping purge across the armed forces. Also in late June, China's National People's Congress announced the removal of Miao Hua, former head of the CMC Political Work Department, from his position on the Central Military Commission. This marks the official fall of one of Xi's most loyal generals, months after Miao was placed under investigation. Since 2017, Miao Hua had served as the CCP's top political officer in the PLA, constantly pledging fealty to Xi. He clashed with Zhang Youxia for years, trying to undermine Zhang's influence by targeting the Rocket Force and the General Armaments Department. Backed by Xi, Miao Hua hoped to replace Zhang Youxia as vice chairman of the CMC after the 20th Party Congress. He also lobbied to promote He Weidong as the second vice chairman, but Zhang refused to step down, and Xi didn't force the issue. Miao was left in limbo, still head of political work but stalled at the top. This only deepened the feud, and Miao doubled down on efforts to sideline Zhang Youxia's allies. But after Miao Hua came under investigation, Zhang struck back, and hard. Under pressure, Miao handed over a list of 90 generals, identifying which were Xi's appointees and which were likely to disobey orders in a crisis. The list began circulating quietly among the ranks, triggering panic across the Army, Navy, Air Force, Rocket Force, the 5 theater commands, and even the National Defense University and Joint Staff Department. Most of those on the list were mid to senior level officers. Some had just been promoted, others were still on active combat readiness duty. Then came the call, orders to suspend their posts and await investigation. No warning, no explanation. It was a complete personnel overhaul of the entire military. Sleepless nights swept through the ranks as officers whispered, "Who's next?" According to one insider, the moment the list came out, half the CMC compound exploded. Zhang's logic for the purge was simple. Those promoted through politics can't be trusted in a real war. He was sending a message: if there's going to be a war, I give the orders. In the past, Xi Jinping envisioned launching simultaneous offensives in the Taiwan Strait and the Middle East, hoping to rescue his allies and play global savior. It sounded bold. In reality, it was suicidal. Troops would be spread too thin, the front lines too long, logistics would collapse. The entire military would go down with it. Zhang Youxia understood this perfectly. And at the same time, he moved decisively, uprooting the entire Air Force command structure of the Southern Theater Command. In late June, the Southern Theater Air Force held a major meeting. As soon as Commander Cao Shangji sat down, just moments into the session, a team from the Military Discipline Commission escorted him out. Not for a conversation. This was a public takedown. In front of dozens of stunned generals, not one dared speak. The room went dead silent. The news spread before the meeting even ended. A new purge had begun. Cao Shangji wasn't just any officer. He held operational command over missions involving U.S. and NATO air and naval forces. Since 2014, he had led the Air Force's Fuzhou Command, the command center Xi personally built for a Taiwan invasion. His political patron, General Xu Qiliang, architect of Xi's Air Force reforms. Chao's resume was textbook perfect. Advanced training at the Air Force Command College, time at Russia's military academy, multiple cross-theater assignments, aggressive public speeches. That's what made his arrest so shocking. His fall didn't just remove a commander. It decapitated the entire Taiwan air warfare chain of command. And the message couldn't be clearer. This isn't just a reshuffle. This is a full-blown bloodletting. That same week, another major figure fell. General Xu Shizheng, political commissar of the Rocket Force. Xu, like Cao, came from the Air Force's Fujian base and was elevated by Xu Qiliang. Xi Jinping later appointed him to the Rocket Force to shore up loyalty. The fall of Xu Shizheng delivered yet another blow to Xi Jinping's already crumbling control over the Rocket Force. Then came Li Hanjun. On June 27th, the National People's Congress removed him as a delegate, effectively stripping him of political immunity. Li, from Xi's home province of Zhejiang, served for years at the Fujian naval base. During Xi's military reforms, he was pulled into the Central Military Commission to oversee Navy restructuring. Promoted under both Xu Qiliang and Miao Hua, he eventually became Chief of Staff of the Navy. Li Hanjun's fall wasn't just a blow to Miao Hua's faction, it was a devastating strike against Xi Jinping's entire military architecture, signaling the near-total collapse of his influence over the Navy. Many viewers have witnessed the ruthless precision with which Zhang Youxia purged Xi Jinping's loyalists from the military, but few understand the story behind it. What ultimately pushed Zhang to strike back wasn't some grand ideological vision. It was the fate of his battlefield companions. Two men shaped Zhang's decision, Liu Yuan and Liu Yazhou. The story begins 10 years ago. On December 31, 2015, Defense Ministry spokesman Yang Yujun announced that, with approval from Xi Jinping and the Central Military Commission, General Liu Yuan was stepping down from his post as political commissar of the General Logistics Department after 10 years in a top-level position, citing regulations on term limits and officer retirement. On the surface, it looked like a routine retirement, but Zhang Youxia knew the real story. Liu Yuan, son of former head of state Liu Shaoqi, had been the tip of the spear in Xi Jinping's anti-corruption campaign inside the military. Back in December 2011, at a high-level military meeting, Liu Yuan delivered a blunt warning. Corruption in the General Logistics Department is rampant. It's everywhere, right in front of us, within reach. This is now a life-or-death crisis for the Communist Party and the PLA. I'd rather die than stand down. That speech set off a chain reaction. It brought down General Gu Junshan and led to the downfall of two of the PLA's most powerful tigers, Xu Kaiho and Guo Boxiong. But in the end, the man who had risked everything for Xi Jinping was quietly pushed aside. Zhang Youxia saw it for what it was, not retirement, but betrayal. Liu Yuan had done the dirty work, but his influence had grown too large, and that made him a threat to the top. Even more chilling was the fate of General Liu Yazhou, a sharp, reform-minded general, son-in-law of Li Xiannian, former political commissar of the National Defense University. Liu Yazhou disappeared in 2021. By 2023, reports emerged he had been detained and could face the death penalty. Officially, corruption. But Zhang Youxia knew the real reason. His ideas were dangerous. Liu Yazhou had spoken openly about democracy, about nationalizing the military, about avoiding war over Taiwan, and even warned that China's greatest threat wasn't the US, but Russia. But such statements clearly struck a nerve at the highest levels of power. Zhang Youxia got the message. There are no allies, only tools. And once you're not useful, you're a threat. And what about Zhang himself? He had more influence than Liu Yuan, more power than Liu Yazhou. Would she really let him walk free? Within a year after the 20th Party Congress, Xi began targeting Zhang's inner circle. Li Shangfu and Wei Fenghe, two of Zhang's closest allies, were both taken down. The Politburo approved disciplinary measures in June last year. Zhang saw the writing on the wall. He moved fast. At the third plenum in July, Xi suffered a stroke. Zhang took control of the armed police, inserted military groups into the Ministry of Public Security, until recently, when he forced Xi Jinping to agree to the creation of a new decision-making and coordination body, establishing a collective leadership mechanism. Zhang Youxia had used the system to redistribute power. The sacrifices of Li Keqiang, Liu Yuan, Liu Yazhu, and his own inner circle had not been in vain. They paved the way for this silent revolution. Xi Jinping's loss of military power wasn't sudden. It was the inevitable result of overreaching, of trying to micromanage an army as if it were a personal security force. Zhang Youxia's patience and his eventual counterstrike revealed a masterful political tactician. He not only preserved his own position, but systematically uprooted Xi's military foundation. But don't mistake this for stability. Corruption still plagues the PLA. And as long as power in China flows through backroom deals and shadow purges, the country's political trajectory will remain volatile. This storm is far from over, and the world should be watching. Get the real story behind the CCP's shifting power games and see where U.S. China relations are headed next. Support the vision of a new China without communism. Subscribe now and join us in bringing the truth to light.